What's a fun, creative way to say fvck? I took her up on her offer. I even lent her a hand. When she took off her shirt, I saw that her underwear matched, so I knew I was in. First time with her, and it was earth-shattering. She was by far the most beautiful, sexy woman I've ever been with. I remember thinking, as I gazed down upon her perfect body, how the hell did I get so lucky? I was hanging out with a female friend from high school a year after graduation. We were at her house, in her bedroom, watching TV. It was like 7-8 p.m., so kind of around bedtime, but not really. She says something to the effect of "I'm gonna get into pajamas," and proceeds to get a skimpy skirt and a very short pair of boxers out of her drawer. She then starts undressing right in front of me. Me, being the gentleman I am, turned away. She finishes and gets into her bed, sitting up with her legs under the covers, slides all the way to the wall, and leaves a space for a person to sit with her. So narrowly I get up, give her a hug, tell her to have a good night, and leave. Years later, still totally oblivious, was talking to her, and she brought up that night. She says, "You missed some pretty big hints. If a girl undresses right in front of you, and crawls onto bed, leaving a space open, that's usually an invitation. I just thought you were tired and wanted to go to bed. I don't regret not doing it. Honestly, had that happened, my life might be completely different." I moved a couple of weeks later feeling like I didn't have any life prospects in my hometown. Had we had started a relationship, I may not have felt that way. It's one of those things you look at and go, that was one of those decisions that could have changed everything. We're good as friends anyway. We're both married and happy, so it'll work out. In college, there was a young lady who was kind of sending signals, but as I said before, I was completely wally naive. Damn Southern Baptists. One day, she comes into the main library on campus where I was working. She tells me she needs some help finding a book, so I accompany her to the stacks, completely desolate, row upon row of bookshelves. As I'm walking down the aisle to retrieve her book, I accidentally run into a wooden book cart. It was summer, I was wearing shorts, and I was a bit pissed to get a splinter in my first college logoed article of clothing. She sees what happened, walks up to me, puts 4 fingers on the inside hem of my shorts, and begins trying to pick out the splinter. While doing so, she begins to hum some slow song popular at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not proud to admit that, once the splinter was removed, I thanked her, retrieved the book, and took her downstairs to check out. I never thought this would happen to me, but it did. I lived in Japan for a year, was spending an awful lot of time with this woman from Texas, and we took a road trip together on my motorcycle, staying in boarding houses, same rooms, separate beds, futons on tatami mat floors, everything strictly platonic, but with something building. Her Japanese was good enough that she would make arrangements for rooms, while I caught about 50% of the conversation. We had been hitting the hot springs here and there, and she found us a boarding house that had co-ed hot springs that we had all to ourselves. What's gonna happen? 'Cause usually they're single, and you have a little towel, but not usually big enough to wrap around you. We're in the dressing room, and I see out of the corner of my eye she's going all the, then says, "Well, I'm in." I turn to look at her, and she raises her arms partway up and drops them to her side, totally naked, and goes into the onsen area. She had lived in Germany and done her share of nude beach tanning and urban park tanning, and was not shy. I go into the onsen and she is facing me and showering, but with her head tilted all the way back to shampoo. The relationship stayed platonic for exactly 1 more day. Talking about being burned into my brain for 25 years. That level of quiet confidence and her generosity in sharing the gifts she was given with me was as big a turn-on as anything that has ever happened to me. That's a total guy fantasy, but in real life, it's too jarring and unexpected, and ends up feeling like a scary trap. Your friend says that to you out of the blue. You nervously laugh in their face, assuming it could just be a joke. Then they have their feelings hurt and try to play it off as a joke. As humans, our minds are wired to search for patterns and develop mental shortcuts. This relationship was described as a friendship, with them still being friends today. That is an already established relationship with well-defined rules. Both parties know this, and for a major shift to occur, then both parties will have to very suddenly decide to completely alter what they thought they knew. A drunken kiss that gets reciprocated is one thing, but this is like your prudish wife of 20 years looking across the restaurant and saying, "Enk, we should have a threesome with the waitress." Oh no, that's not my wife. Is this a trap? Did an alien take over her body? What happened to my wife? So you laugh it off and act like it must be a joke, because what are the odds that the world just turned upside down in the last 5 seconds? It's not a confidence thing at all. I like to randomly flash my husband at home and jokingly tell him there's something wrong with my boobs and they need a full exam. This usually progresses to, and my boobs get a lot of attention. My husband is a nurse lol. Sometimes I'll ask him if he fancies some extra cardio, or if he will help me unmake the bed. Or I will say, "Excuse me, sir, you are wearing entirely too many clothes," and banter from there. Married almost 5, together 7. Still a young marriage, but I think the comfort level past year 3 together has actually increased flirtiness. We are also both goofy people who are both physically affectionate. I married my best friend, and I know relationships evolve over time, but we try to choose each other every day. And I hope the core of our relationship never truly changes. It's based on trust and friendship, and love and supporting each other through difficult times. He's already supported me through a cancer return scare and several family deaths, and he lost his brother to suicide 2 years ago. We both help care for his mom who cannot drive because she had a stroke, and we've both been each other's rock. I hope we never lose that, and if we do, then we work on it. We have several long and healthy marriages on both sides of the family to look to, and some terrible ones. We did a lot of marriage counseling before we took the plunge just to do it. Glad we did. We used some of the counseling advice over the last few years. Mine's sadly gone the other way. The longer we've been together, the closer we've become as partners, but the less my wife finds she can be intimate with me. When we met, I was very thin. Lord knows why she agreed to go out with me. She was, and still is, absolutely stunning. Both men and women regularly approach her when we go out. It always makes me feel smug as she turns and introduces them to me. About a year into our marriage, I began going to the gym in the hope that it'd sort out my years of negative body image. It did. I got really into it, changed my diet and got really ripped, like I put on 20 kilograms in muscle mass. Something I'd never been remotely close to. My wife was over the moon and loved showing me off to everyone, and she loved the compliments her friends told her about me. But then I realized that the better shape I got, the less she wanted to sleep with me. Turns out, my glow up made her feel like I was now out of her league, and because she wasn't gym buff, she's never weighed more than 110 pounds in her life, by the way. She wasn't worthy of me. And she now felt embarrassed when we were naked together. She loves how I look and that I feel so confident and happy in my body, but simultaneously hates that she feels so insecure about herself. Been together 9 years, married for 7. We've had twice since August. Yeah, we're communicating and talking about it. Has been a difficult and infrequent issue for us for the past 8 years, really. It's pretty much become a sad running joke between the two of us. We fancy each other, we're permanently tired. When we do have it's awesome, but making it happen is always a slim to none chance. The other day she was flirting up a storm, telling me things she was going to do to me, wandering around the house with a skirt and no underwear on, catching me out of the view of the kids for a quick make out or grope session, the works. So I went up to our room and stuck a condom under my pillow, so I didn't have to root through the bedside drawer and ruin the moment later on. About an hour later she comes into the bedroom where I'm getting dry from a shower, and she noticed the condom sticking out a little bit from under my pillow. Apparently doing that completely killed the vibe because preparing for it had now put expectations on the evening, and now she felt like she was compelled to do it. Anyway, it didn't happen. Fiancé regularly informs me that the bed is broken. The first time she pulled it, I asked her what she meant, and she said it was too hard to explain and that I just needed to go look at it like right now. I eventually caught on, but kept asking her questions and giving her a hard time for the lols. It became a whole thing, and now I don't know how to go along with it without asking dumb questions like, How is it broken? It was running fine this morning. Or, have you tried turning it off and back on again? When I was like 19, had been trying to get with my neighbor for months. He was finally single and we were having some beers outside of his house. He had just gotten a puppy and had mentioned earlier in the night that his room smelled like pee because of it. A couple hours later it was silent, the night was winding down. I mustered up all of the game I had and said, "So does your room really smell that bad?" And it worked. Lamel had an ex-girlfriend who completely caught me off guard years ago. I was laying on the couch watching telly and she casually asked if I would please go close the curtains, so I got up and walked the few meters across the room to close the curtains. And as I turn around to walk back to the couch, I see she has taken off her skirt and top and is sitting semi-naked and casually says, "This will be better than that boring show." Of course, it was way better. This is my boyfriend and I every day. We actually really struggle to sit through shows together. No matter how invested we are, we just always end up wanting to faff. In my younger years I dated, lived with this girl, and we would play a nameless game. This was before Netflix, mind you, so we would turn whatever TV show on and be naked watching. As a commercial break would start, we would have. The goal of the game was to freeze as the show started and not continue until the next commercial break. I could not pull out unless I was already out and in transition to a new position. Also, we would have to keep movement to a minimum lest we be considered sneaking and slow. The first person to not stop when the show started was the loser, but were either of us really the loser? Haha, it was very fun and kept the drive ramped up high for long periods of time. One time a guy I was talking to at a bar told me he had a working Nintendo Power Glove, and I couldn't get over how cool that was. Then he asked me if I wanted to come over to his place and try it on. On the flip side of the coin, another time, I'd been having a very long and drawn-out flirtation with a coworker that I was convinced was going nowhere. Even though the chemistry was through the roof, so was the frustration. I'd even started to convince myself that it was one-sided. Then, one night when we were both working late and were the only ones left in the office, we were talking about some nonsense TV show, and in the middle of the conversation, he suddenly said, "Fafk, I'm dying to know what you taste like." Dear readers, I got up on the nearest desk in record time. I have twice actually. Bit of a story. The first time, he gave me his number, but he had a girlfriend I didn't know about because he never mentioned her to me. He came to tell me the day they broke up, and that's how I found out he hadn't been single. They were dating for only 2 months apparently. Then I tried again a month later, but he kinda deflected and said he was busy. So I took it as a no, but even though I tried to be polite and leave him alone after, he comes up to me every day. Other coworkers have noticed the chemistry and asked me if we're dating, so I don't think I'm crazy. Maybe he's just the kind of guy that's very protective of his career and doesn't want to be involved with me since we work together. Unsure. I don't want to pester him by asking again though. I've also asked this guy twice to hang out with me. He has my number. There's nothing really stopping him from asking me to hang out either if he were truly busy at the time, but wanted to. And I think asking him a third time is kinda crossing the line of what's appropriate at work, maybe? This sounds just like what I'm going through and have been for about a year now. Insane chemistry with a coworker. Others have questioned me about it. She is always spending time with me at work, always chatting or opening up to me, finding ways to be around me, asking me to go with her around the office, offering really sweet gestures, etc. Our jobs are even completely unrelated, so we don't have a reason to work together. We used to occasionally, but have no reason to, can't find a reason to anymore, yet I'm just convincing myself she isn't really interested. As nothing ever progresses, and for everything she says or does that I'm certain things are mutual, there will be something else that makes me doubt it. She's protective of her career, so sometimes I let myself think that's why she's holding back the tension some days though. I've had this since April with a girl too, but from the flip side, I think she's amazing, sweet, and beautiful, and I love having her as a friend with a little flirting and little visits as a reprieve from the grind. But there's nothing romantic from my end. I don't think we're a real match. I don't want to give it a shot just for the hell of it and end up ruining our little work wife, work husband kinda thing, and also, I really try not to where I eat, ya know. Okay, no, this is going to sound faffed up, but the best line I ever heard was from my grandma. She was 98 and had terrible dementia and couldn't recognize anyone. And she was Randy. Her line, "Show me how you love me tonight. Be romantic." Would use with a beloved. Graham's got game. While I wish there was an ethical and safe way to fulfill her needs, it was not something I wanted to participate in. In retrospect, perhaps a really careful and aware professional who does pelvic work could have been employed, but I was not a decision maker for her care. Our term lately has been doing some enthusiastic cuddling, very enthusiastic. The source also implies something kinda worse. It's inspired by Helsing Ultimate Abridged. Alucard likes to go for enthusiastic walks at midnight. He always gets into something during them. After one, his boss is recounting the details, saying while on his walk he found a town overrun by ghouls led by a vampire priest. He killed the vampire but had to shoot through a big-tittied police girl to get him. Alucard then raises her as a vampire because her eyes looked like a puppy's, to which he responds, "Very enthusiastic walks." Initially our code was, "Do you want to go cuddle in the bed and watch?" Listen to this. At one point, after it had led to more for several times in a row, I started calling it enthusiastic cuddling, to differentiate it from her intention being to only cuddle. I'm in a good relationship, 15 years now, but no matter how many times I tell her how much it hurts me that she never initiates, she can't bring herself to do. I guess I understand. She said something during our last argument that finally got through to me. I don't remember what it was, but it finally clicked. After 15 years, I can't remember, but I remember understand, even briefly, and that's enough. If still feel profoundly sad that I don't get to feel desired, but I know in my logical brain that I am. I just wish I felt that way. Okay, story time. I German M27 had an older woman, Spanish F36, over to make music on a regular basis. I produced multiple projects for her already, and I always had interest in her, but felt like it wasn't mutual. One day she be chilling after we recorded her voice for an hour, and I just thought, whatever, I'll just give it a shot and tell her. So my stupid German brain made me lean back in my seat, look at her from 3 meters distance, and say, "Yo, think you're damn hot by the way." She was so surprised by my cold presentation of it, started laughing, and told me I am the most German she ever met. Then we faffed. I have no clue how to speak to women, I guess. On the way back to college with my ex, after spending spring break with my family, on a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere, me and one car behind me, all of a sudden my ex asks if I can slow down. I say sure, and I back off a little bit. A little while later she asks me to slow down again, and I tell her I'm going the speed limit as it is. She said, "I know, but if you don't slow down, the guy behind you won't go around you, and then I can't suck your dick." Me and my booty call were once joking that he's a chiropractor, getting rid of my neck pain by slightly choking, and other stuff. At the end of the convo I said, "So, do you have any openings for tomorrow so I can make an appointment? My neck is killing me." Also, this one was made as a joke. I just had to do it. Me and my sister were out, met a friend of ours with a friend of his. My sister told me after a while that the other dude was our gynecologist's son. So I said to him, "Your dad looks at my vagina on a regular basis. Do you want to do that too?" Thankfully, the dude was too dumbstruck to say anything. I had no intentions with him. Just saw the opportunity and had to take it. Wait for your partner to do something, like literally anything. Go quiet and just look at her with a sense of awe, like you would look at a piece of art. Eventually, she'll smile and say, "What?" Give her a gentle smile back. And just keep looking at her like she's the most beautiful thing on the earth. Get lost in her, and let your feelings for her fill up your heart and flood your entire body. She'll get a little exasperated and say something like, "What are you looking at me like that for?" You say something like, You are just so incredibly beautiful. I can't get over it. Every time I look at you I remember how totally screwed I am. You've got me completely. You move over to her and pull her in close. Grab her butt firmly and lock her hips against yours. Before kissing her, pull back slightly. Say, "Let me look at you." Take your other hand and run your fingers through her hair and put it behind her ear on one side, and then slide the same hand gently down the side of her face and lift her chin slightly. Make deep, soft eye contact. Really drink in how gorgeous she is. Her eyes, her skin, her lips. Let your attraction to her swell. Reaffirm to her, beautiful. Slow time down and bring your face close to hers. Run your lips along her neck with small, light pressure kisses. She should barely feel it. She'll likely smell amazing. Breathe that in. Then move in closer with a soft, teasing kiss. Taste her lips. Close your eyes and feel the sensations of her body and how she's responding. Squeeze her body closer like you can't get close enough. Push her gently up against the wall. Have a slight edge of desperation like she's water and you're thirsty. She should feel your desire like a growing flame. If you're doing this right, there will be a moment when she melts. It'll feel like a softening and a gentle sighing exhale. When you sense she's open to your request, tell her you want her in whatever way makes sense in the moment. I dunno if it belongs here, but this was almost soon after, when Nintendo Switch just came out. She goes, "I've got the new Switch hooked up in my room. Wanna try it?" In my excitement, I totally ignored the hints and just went in there. After she locks the door, she goes, and I swear, "Oops, sorry, I kinda forgot the charger adapter at house. So, I guess we could switch it up a notch," while undressing herself. TBH, was kinda disappointed didn't get to play the Switch that day, so had to settle for the. My lovely late partner used to say, "Let's make babies." Not really viable as we were both in our mid-50s. Worse one was when I was very young and naive. This guy said, "I've got a surprise for you upstairs." I said, "Is it a kitten?" Told you I was naive. He said maybe. So I followed him upstairs. He opened the wardrobe doors and there was a full Nazi uniform. He must have thought that it was so impressive that I'd immediately jump into bed with him. The only jumping that I did was leaping down the stairs to get out of his house. I was with a group of my friends and my girlfriend. We hadn't done anything but make out up to this point. It was getting late and my friends were talking about going to a strip club. They turned to my girlfriend that they had just met that night and asked if she'd be okay with me going, just giving me a hard time. Without missing a beat, she says, "I'm completely fine with him going with you, but if he comes home with me, he'll have a lot more fun." Needless to say, I went home with her and had more fun. We've been married over a decade now. Met someone at a free wine event thing back as a student. We were talking about our first year accommodation, and she said she had lots of carrots growing outside her flat. I told her that I don't think I have any, and then she said, "That's a pity because I would always water your carrot for you." She spent the next 10 minutes cringing at what she had said, but I found that kind of cute, honestly. Anyway, she came back to my flat later on in the day and, damn, she wasn't lying.